Well, hello, and we have another review, another Banggood product they kindly sent over. Something a little bit different. This is the MJX Bugs 2 drone. And when I showed this to my daughter, she said, "Oh, brilliant, you got the red one." And the answer is, maybe. It depends which side of the box we open, I guess. Reason I went for this when offered is it's kind of a hybrid thing. It's normally sort of, here's a toy grade thing, and it's normally sort of a little thing with brush motors and sort of very basic. And the hobby grade where you're getting into a brushless system with more features and bits and pieces, this sort of spans the gap a bit. So we're looking at brushless motors, GPS, barometer, stabilised thing. It's even got like return to home and stuff, which I thought was an interesting thing. So it's not on the toy drone type of thing, but it's not quite on the hobby either. It's like somewhere in between. So I thought maybe this is a good thing to someone who doesn't want to invest in getting himself a separate radio, FPV goggles, because this uses your phone for FPV, but uses a 2.4 gigahertz radio, which is included, and it's all in the one box. Also, it's shiny. So let's get it out and actually see what colour we got, shall we? So in the box, instructions, spare props, the radio, and if we turn the whole thing over, we got the red one. Yay, shinier. So in the accessory part you get one of these batteries. It's kind of reminiscent of the DJI style slot-in batteries. It's actually a 1800 2-cell, and it looks very proprietary, but it's actually an XT30 connector here, and under there is a balance connector there. So the whole thing charges with this included thing, which is a 2-cell balance charger with a, I think that's European plug, the round ones. No good for me. But the good thing is, because it has the right connectors, you can use your normal charger to do it. Although, of course, depending on what country you're in, you might need a converter. This is a multi-voltage plug though. It go from 100 to 240 volts. A little screwdriver and something to hold on to the props if you need to change them. This is the phone holder to go on the radio. Radio is actually quite nice. I'm surprised that the gimbals actually feel quite good. They're both sprung centre. Again, a little bit more like the DJI thing, where it's all about, if it's in the middle, it holds its position, you go up and down, rather than it's a throttle control. But what's quite nice about this is you've got individual controls for things. So landing, takeoff, lock, unlock, which sort of starts the propellers or not, home, camera, you've got headless mode or not headless mode, and then you've got, well, one of these things they call gesture mode, which is essentially what we call in the nowadays attitude. So it's it height holds but doesn't position hold, and then you've got GPS mode, which uses satellites. This needs 4 AA batteries, not included, but when turned on you've got a whole list of stuff actually on the screen there. So you've got your distance to home, your height above your home point, you've got battery indication for the radio and the quad, which mode you're in, because you can go mode 1 to 4 in terms of how your sticks work, the number of satellites, all bits like that. Quite a good radio. It's, you know, it's plastic, it's not a hobby grade thing, but this is a hell of a lot better gimbal wise than a lot of the things you get. Pretty nice. The quad itself, shiny. It's a nice looking thing. It's got the camera here, which I think is I think it's a 1080p camera, but we'll have to see how that is. I'm not expecting miracles from this. Micro SD slot just here, so no big hassle. And then the battery goes in there. I have to say that getting the battery in and out is not the easiest thing. You have to really give it a good Really have to give it a good old whack to get in there. And these lights mean various things. But what you can't do is keep the battery in there and then have a switch to turn on. That when the battery is in, you've connected the battery. So let's get that out again. It's got these two little tabs to push down, but that is pretty tight. I love what it says in the manual about how to get the battery in. It says, slide the battery into the battery compartment at the rear of the aircraft by pushing with appropriate force. How much is appropriate? Ask various police forces around the world what appropriate force means and they'll have different answers to you. But yeah, it doesn't slot in easy. It needs some jiggling around, and getting out is a little bit tricky. Just mentioning it because if this was in the hands of someone smaller or younger, they might be a little bit worried about how that goes in. You don't want to force these things because this is just plastic at the end of the day. You don't want to go push it and go. But yeah, it takes some jiggling and a bit of force. The radio is 2.4. That's your control signal. There's an app for your phone, and in the manual you get a couple of QR codes you can scan. One really important thing about this that I didn't realise at first is that it uses 5.8 gigahertz for Wi-Fi. So make sure your phone supports it, else you're not going to be going anywhere. The Wi-Fi is just used for the FPV signal coming back, and it's not obviously 5.8 analog. It's its own proprietary Wi-Fi system. I think my iPhone 6 here does it. Let's hope so. Well, let's get it together and get to the field and see what happens, shall we?
So just to explain, I'm going to show my maiden flight in full here. So there's a couple of overlays. I tried to capture the remote control and the phone screen. That hasn't quite come out right, but you can see bits of it. And at certain points I put in the recorded viewpoint from the bugs. This keeps going horribly out of sync, so if that loses its way, just bear with me. It's quite long, so obviously feel free to flick on ahead if you need to. The first thing we need to do, and you need to do it every flight, is do the compass calibration, which again looks very similar to the NASA. Spin it around in a couple of the axes 3 times over.
Spin round. We're GPS mode. We've got 15 satellites. We're recording, everything's recording there, so let's unlock. We're going up. So, it's in GPS. How's it holding? Well, we're hands off. That looks alright, doesn't it? Let's go for a little circle, see how it feels. Right now I'm just doing this line of sight. Oh, there I am. So let me get this in the right position. It's holding reasonably well. Cheering about a bit, but it's doing alright. So let's see what happens and if we go a little bit further. So let's try using the screen here. Give it a little bit more height. So you sure I'm filming the screen? Yeah, filming the screen kind of. I mean, it's got the normal problem. Using a phone screen is always going to be tricky, but I can see stuff. The display's pretty good. It's an HD picture, and I've got 90 odd meters away from myself, according to the little information on the screen there. If I stop it, you can see it put the brakes on. It's only 4 meters up, so I'm going to go a bit higher. Oh, it's getting a little bit jerky now. Yeah, we're getting some lockups at about 100 meters. So let's try turning it around. So yeah, the screen on the phone is going a little bit jerky. But this is 115 meters away, which is actually quite far for a phone. See it coming on back here. Brakes on. 12 meters. I think it looks higher than 12 meters. I'm not completely convinced about the altitude reading. See how it descends. Can't help thinking with this sort of system you're going to be doing a mix of looking visually and looking at your phone. Let's see if I can get out of the light here. If I turn... I can't turn it away where I'm happy about what I've got there. Not a bad little turn of speed, that's in GPS mode. So let's try the return to home, shall we? So this is the home button, I'm going to press it. The quad is sitting there currently. Press return to home. The little home things come up. And it's going upwards. Distance is coming down here. Height reckons it's at 15 meters, which is probably about right. And it's hovering, let me get out of the way. Just up there. See how accurate it is. This is about where we took off from. Distance is now 0. So am I supposed to do the landing for this? Or is it going to come down anyway? Oh, it's coming down. That's pretty hard to argue with. It's about a metre out. It's quite good, I think. Got the battery here on the quad to say how much juice we've got, and we've still got some, so let's take it off and go for another fly. So it strikes me you've got about 100 metres range usefully on this thing. It's almost like a self-governing thing. Oh, but let's try basically attitude mode. So that's it in GPS hold. If we change it to what they call gesture mode, which is a stupid name for it, off it drifts in the wind there. Light wind today, but there is some around. Still self-leveling, and it still doesn't go crazy when you fly it. That's sort of max speed. I mean, it's all right. It's a reasonable turn of speed. Very easy to fly. Just point it where you want it to go. And it's super happy. And I mean, I say the one thing about trying to fly fast FPV is the camera face is slightly down. So you see we're getting mainly the grass, and it chops up when you're getting a lot of movement. Let's put it back in GPS mode. I don't want to go too near stuff, but let's have a bit of a look around here. I have to say I'm bouncing back and forth between the controller and the screen quite a lot on this. It seems like that's how you need to do it, because you can get jerkiness on this Wi-Fi signal where it's dropping frames. Obviously closer in seems a little smoother. Other than that, the lag's not too bad at all. There's me. Hello, me. So let's find a... I'm using my own shadow here. Let's see if I can fly out. You go past my head, let's have a look at those trees or something. There it goes. I kind of tend to think if you were doing this to like look at stuff, it might be sort of, oh, what's in that tree? So you'd go close to the tree. Maybe you want to line up. So let's go up a bit higher. something like 24 metres. We have a bit of a little fly, just looking over the trees. Our distance is just coming up to 76 metres here. And we've got a frozen picture. And we're back. Oh, I'm 103 away now. Yeah, I'd say 100 metres is about your cut-off. Even at a higher altitude, it doesn't seem to make too much of a difference. As FPV wise, the actual TX range on this, the transmitter should be a lot further. Oh, there we are, quite high now. Very easy to see in the sky. Well, it certainly is today. So this is what happens in GPS mode if you stop. So let's fly along, full whack, finger off, grinds it to a halt, and stops. I kind of like this. I think Sophie will enjoy this, because if she gets into trouble, all you have to do is like, oh, I don't know where I am, I don't know where I am, just take your fingers off. Stops. Which is great. Obviously, if you're in the other mode, go take finger off, carry on drifting along. Get made a bit faster? I think so, yeah. It feels faster to me. You make coordinated turns in it. Let's have a look. That's not bad. It's not the speediest thing in the world, but it's only on a 2-cell after all. This is good fun. How are we doing on battery? Battery's still going. We've been up, I think, about 10 minutes. So what you probably won't want to do with it is sort of proximity stuff. So let's get close to this stuff and see how I feel about it. Whoop. See, my signal's locked up there on my screen. Am I still pointing at my screen? So I'm kind of having to look visually. This is more of a, like, you look visually, you see where you are, and if you're happy you can carry on. Just gonna hold, ooh, that's choppy through there. Come on, come back. Yeah, getting into proximity stuff is not something you want to do, because that, when that signal lags, it's like, where am I? Could be anywhere. It is such a joy to fly line of sight though. It is so easy. I think anyone can fly this thing. Still on 2 batteries. Let's see if we can do the pull away shot. I still want to look at it. What's she beeping for? Now, is that a battery thing? Might be. I have to look that up. It's on to 2 beeps, which I think is its sort of, come on dude, get sorted. So let's see if the one-touch landing button works. So we bring it in here. Find out where I want it to be. Try hitting this landing button. Hey, look, it's landing.
So as I said, this was so easy. I thought Sophie would enjoy it. So we went out the next day. I gave her the basic instructions on what buttons to press, and she gave it a go. Now, she's recently lost a little bit of confidence with quads, as we were testing one the other day and it literally flew off into bushes and was never seen again. But with this, I wanted to show her that she could just go along and let go of the sticks and it was just stay there. So she went in at first saying, I don't want to look at the screen, I don't really want to fly it, are you sure this will be alright? And then she got a lot of confidence from it, because whenever she went wrong, I didn't have to jump in and take the controller or tell her what to do. I could just say, well, let go and have a look at the screen, see where you are, and then turn it around and come back. One other quick thing to mention on this one as well is we took the SD card out of the Bugs quad itself, so this recording is being recorded from the phone, the FPV view, which to my mind actually looks a little bit smoother because it's transmitting in 720p instead of 1080. But what happens is where it misses frames, instead of sort of keeping the frame rate and sort of pausing, it just sort of chops and you get bits of it missing. But it still looks smoother to my mind. Anyway, it was completely safety proof. I was able to, you know, not worry her by saying, give me the control quick, you're going to lose it. When she got close to the trees, I said, if you don't know what you're doing or if you don't feel like you can get it back, just hit the return from home, and we did that 3 times. She managed to get to something like 186 meters before she actually managed to hit the button on one point. But we could still see it in the sky quite well. So yeah, as far as beginners or children or nervous flyers go, I found it really quite good.
Okay, well this is quite a turn up for the books. I thought this looked interesting and had the potential to be good, but I didn't expect the GPS implementation to be quite as good as it was. It reminded me of the first time I put my NASA on my F450 5 years or so ago, and being able to, like, look, it's in the air and you can push it and it goes back. This position hold with the GPS is really, really good. It will just sit there happily. You can push it around the sky. The barometer works very well. I could absolutely let Sophie completely mess around with it and not have to worry too much, apart from when she was near the trees. And then I gave my, perhaps you want to press the return to home button. Return to home comes in about a metre of where you left off, and you can steer it in the midst of that. It's just really good. Radio as well turned out really nicely. Nice to hold. Information on display very good and very easy to read, even in bright sunlight, so you could see distance to home, altitude, what mode you're in, all that sort of governs. These dedicated buttons work really well, especially the home button, takeoff, landing, arming, all really good. Like that a lot. So things we didn't like, and it's a shame because it's like, I'd almost be like, this is amazing, you've got to get it. But 2 major issues, depending how important they are to you. Firstly, the camera. I mean, to be fair, we weren't expecting much, and you know, it's a bit jerky and there's jello. I mean, it actually works better from the phone, I think, of what I've got there, but then you've got the possibility of lost frames, and that's, you know, the other bad thing. They've decided to go with using 5.8 Wi-Fi on your phone for FPV, which, you know, your best range on a phone is 100 meters tops. And that wouldn't be so bad if it was always going to be, you know, smooth and okay. But of course you get a situation where you're flying along and it might drop a few frames and then it sort of goes jerky. And when you're near trees and stuff, you've just got to stop altogether, wait for the video to catch up and think, am I okay here? Am I good to go? So if you're close in and in a big area and just flying around looking at the phone, that's probably okay and you're fine. But anything else, not so good. And at this point I kind of struggle because it's either really good or it's not so good, and it kind of depends where you're coming from. If you're sort of a hobbyist like me and you've got a bunch of quads and planes and you sort of build your own stuff, you know, this isn't for you, and this wasn't designed for us. So who is this designed for? I'm kind of think there's a sort of different category of fly that we haven't thought about. You could talk about guys that are beginning to fly and they might go towards the sort of RTF racing quad like the Wizard 220. And have that sort of first FPV experience. But this is more of, I'm going to call him a sort of casual flyer. So it's maybe not someone who wants to get super into it, or perhaps it's someone who just wants to dip their toes in, or someone who doesn't want, you know, to learn flying the hard way about the sort of crashing and stuff. Because it is so easy to fly this thing. You can just put it in someone's hand, they can whiz around, they get the hang of the sticks, and it's no hassle. If they get stuck, they press the button, it comes back and it lands. The fact that you can't see anything more than 100 meters away is kind of nice, because the amount of people that tend to sort of buy expensive DJI quads and say, oh, let's see how far I can go. Look, I can go for miles and fly over things, can be quite dodgy. So it's kind of self-governing, if you like, because it won't go far away enough to give you any problems. For someone who kind of wants to try this out but isn't sure about it, doesn't want to invest in lots and lots, doesn't want to spend £1,000 on a DJI product, but equally doesn't want to spend several £100s on something they might crash a lot and have to rebuild, this is really nice. I would say it's a primarily learning to fly line of sight and perhaps lining yourself up to take photos and stuff and bits of video. Not great video, but perhaps from the sort of casual beginner point of view, the fact you're up there and you can see stuff is like, wow, look at this, as opposed to, oh, this could be better. So there is that. I mean, one thing I would say about it as well is it's got expandability. I mean, this would have been almost perfect if they'd have said, let's not use the phone, let's use a 5.8 gigahertz analog FPV camera and throw in, you know, you can get goggles for like £40 now, and they work pretty well. I think that would have been ideal. So I'm going to come back to this, and I'm actually going to stick a little camera and all-in-one VTX on here and just see how it goes, because flying wise it's so easy. And I'm keen to mess around with it some more and see what it can do. So yeah, that's it. Bugs 2. GPS hold, amazing. Camera not so good, but see what you think for yourself. I will see you next time.